Hey, well, what's up, guys? Welcome back to The Collision. Daniel here to talk about a movie about a big CGI monkey punching a big CGI lizard to see who's the biggest, the baddest. Godzilla versus Kong. I've seen it. You guys maybe have seen it, so let's talk about it. So probably the best way to kind of wade into talking about this film is that this is a dumb film about two giant CGI creatures just beating the snot out of each other. And I think kind of your enjoyment of this film will hinge entirely on whether that statement is taken as a positive or a critique of the film. Because again, this film exists almost exclusively to kind of geek out and present some crazy spectacle of big monsters fighting each other. And really, that's about all it has to offer. And again, if that's what you're looking for, then this film, I think, might satisfy you. If you're looking for more, then you're probably not going to find a whole lot in this film. And again, you really can't emphasize emphatically enough just how dumb this movie is. And again, this film starts off with King Kong. He's waking up from a nap. He's kind of groggily walking, scratching his rear end as some romantic music plays. So I don't think the filmmakers are unaware of just the kind of ridiculousness of the film. There is sort of a self-aware, kind of campy B-movie, vibe going for it. So it's not just, that this movie, is kind of a mess or nonsense or just ridiculous. The filmmakers are aware of it. So a lot of the kind of trying to decide on what do you think about this film is sort of riding that balance between, being on the one hand, so bad it's good, to the other side of just it's so bad. So again, we'll get into some of those aspects. But again, as far as the sort of the dumb side of this film, kind of the mess, this is anything that's not the actual creatures fighting on screen is just a big mess. The plot, if you can call it a plot, it's razor thin. It makes no sense. There's obviously countless scenes of characters just sort of rattling off some jargon-filled scientific mumbo-jumbo of why we need to go places. It never really makes sense. The more you think about it, the more you realize just how much it doesn't make sense. The acting in this is atrocious, which is kind of surprising because there's actually quite a few recognizable actors, and they're all capable. But again, it's almost home video bad. Some of the acting in this, and again, that works in the sense of this is sort of this like campy throwback monster flick. But again, it's hard to take that seriously. And again, there's probably more human kind of non-monster stuff in this film than you would expect. I don't know if that's just because of the budget and they could only put so much monster fighting, but kind of anything kind of that goes beyond, characters make these, world altering decisions seemingly on a whim. They're just sort of flying by the seat of their pants and making these huge decisions with these monsters that are going to result in, devastation and, probably tons of lives lost. And again, so, that side of it makes no sense. It's tedious. It's poorly acted. But again, no one's going to go to like a WWE wrestling event expecting some Shakespearean drama. You go just to see people fight and punch and kick. And again, I don't think anyone's going into this film wanting some deep, philosophical questions raised or, real serious acting. They want to see Godzilla and King Kong fight and see who's the biggest, who's the baddest. And on that level, there is fun to be had. I don't care how old you are, how you're coming at this film. You can't get over the fact that it's cool to see these classic monsters just throw down with each other. They're leveling buildings, and so there's definitely some fun to be had on that aspect. Kind of the surprising thing for me is there's really not a whole lot of it though. I think the first kind of showdown these two monsters have is at the 40-minute mark of this film. Is kind of their first fight. It's all kind of set up before that with a lot of human stuff that's not interesting. And then after that first fight, it's another 40 minutes before they have their second showdown. So you go almost an hour and a half in this film with only one fight between these two, Godzilla versus Kong. And again, there's other action and maybe fighting other creatures. And so it's not just pure human drama, but you really don't get a ton of sort of the one thing that this film has going for it. And you're kind of left with a lot of just uninspiring, boring human characters. So it's I don't care about these people. I want to see a fight. When the fights happen, they're pretty cool. There's some good stuff going, but again, the film just doesn't give enough of that, I think, to make up for all the kind of the messy plot and ridiculous level that it has going for the rest of the movie. As far as the sort of content stuff to be aware about, there's sort of minor violence. Again, it's mostly monster on monster violence. There's like green blood, and again, humans die by the scores. There's devastation, but you don't see blood or gore or anything like that. There's no sexual content in this film. As far as profanity, there's a handful of kind of minor profanities. I'd seen somewhere that they have sort of the classic PG-13 F-bomb. I didn't hear it when I watched, but again, be aware of that. Maybe as far as this sort of like theme, again, this film is not aspiring to wrestle with deep philosophical themes and questions. And again, this is purely an excuse to throw these two monsters together and let us watch them battle it out. So again, it's not trying to raise a bunch of deep worldview issues. But one of the interesting things, I think, sort of the monster verse is what they're calling it. This is the fourth, the first time that these two characters have been together, fourth film in this series. One of the kind of underlying themes that's been going throughout all of these is kind of this religious motif. Again, this is more overt with the kind of religious imagery in some of the previous films where they have the monsters and like the cross in the background, and they kind of played with it more in that sense. But this film kind of goes there as well. And again, this is maybe kind of minor spoilers. So again, if you haven't seen the movie, be cautious, going into it. But again, one of the themes in this film is this sort of mankind kind of overreaching. Again, they treat these monsters almost like stand-ins for kind of gods, like the old gods, more in like a Greek mythology than like a Christian sense. But these are sort of these old guardian creatures, these all-powerful that we've sort of forgotten, and they've come back to kind of put us back in our place. A lot of the drama, if you want to call it drama, in this film kind of hinges and centers around humans trying to overreach, trying to kind of raise themselves up to the level of these creatures, these sort of overpowering guardians. And again, at one point, one of the human scientists, kind of the evil mustache twirling bad guys in the film, kind of says, the goal is not to only be his equal, but to be a superior. Kind of humans trying to become the alpha predator in the world. And again, I don't want to get too deep into the plot details, but I think there's a lot of or at least a little bit of interesting stuff to get into with that, as far as sort of science and trying to come up with our own powers to face off against these gods. And again, a lot of this film kind of plays out like a lot of classic sci-fi movies as like a cautionary tale, almost like a Tower of Babel kind of story, as far as overreaching ourselves, trying to play with powers that we were never meant to have, trying to kind of be our own gods in this world. And it sort of puts the humans in their place pretty quickly. Sort of in the end, this film, I think it's sort of like Luke and Dagobah. You're going to get what you bring with you. If all you want to see is just sort of monsters fighting, then again, if you can kind of get through some of the lead up and some of the stuff, human stuff before that, then I think you might have some stuff to enjoy. But if you're looking for kind of anything more than that, again, you're not going to find it with this film. And again, one of my, even like the two monsters fighting each other. One of the reasons why I tend to gravitate more towards like people versus monster movies rather than monster versus monster is that, at a certain point, no matter kind of how spectacle driven it is, when it's just two completely CGI created characters fighting without any kind of human element to it, you sort of just start feeling like you're watching a computer game or like a cutscene or like a really, really expensive cartoon, and you kind of lose the heart of it. Even like one of the things that some of the previous films have been really good at that this film doesn't really do is give you a sense of like the scale of these creatures. You get very few kind of perspective shots from humans kind of looking up as these creatures are battling. And, without that, you sort of have two equally sized creatures fighting, that you just sort of, you lose the magnitude of these massive monsters fighting. And again, it plays out like a video game of, characters. Like the buildings and some of the scenery gives some sense of scope, but it's really missing sort of that human element. And I think, again, maybe you're coming into this just for the spectacle of the fights, but I think all good monster movies, you rely on at least having enough human perspective and heart to kind of make the rest of it have some meaning. Again, I think this film kind of overlooks that, trying to give you too much sugar, too much of the spectacle without anything to kind of give it substance or meaning. But yeah, if you guys saw this film, let me know what you guys thought. Were you guys satisfied with it? Did it meet your expectations to finally see these two creatures kind of go back and forth? Were you like me, thinking this is a little too ridiculous, a little too campy? Were you missing, not that we want this to be an Oscar bait film, but were you missing just a little bit of that human kind of drama and meaning behind this film? Again, let me know. And again, if you haven't done so, I encourage you guys to subscribe to our channel, like this video, keep up with all we're doing, become a collider. But more than that, guys, I want to thank you guys for watching and continue to collide with your world for Christ.